up, guys? Team Stamp West, Discraft under. Well, let me start over.
Fine.
What's up, guys? Team Stamp West, Discraft Underground Captain. Super excited for this one. The times are kind of goofy, but we're having some fun. Alex, how's it going?
It's pretty good.
Awesome. Tonight we got Jeff Spring.
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
Doing
We're
well,
doing good.
well.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff. We hope you're doing well, too. And we kind of want to kick it off with our usual question. Tell us how you got into disc golf.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on. Big disc graph thrower for a long time.
Nice.
I've been playing disc golf since 2008. And I'll start at the roots of my story. I grew up going to an overnight summer camp and then became a camp counselor then. Had a crew of friends, really tight knit. And one of my buddies, we would actually work environmental ed seasonally after I got out of college. So I would go from, working at that summer camp to working at an environmental ed center. And then I started working as a ski instructor. But like the year after I got out of school, my buddy Josh told me about the game of disc golf, and he said, hey, you got to hear about this. What we play all the time, at camp. Basically, you have free time and you play frolf, and so you pick, a starting point and an end point, and so you say, okay, hey, we're going to throw from the dining hall steps to the flagpole, and then from the flagpole down to the rec hall, and then to cabin 10's, door, and so if you get a group of kids, you say, hey, you design the next hole. So we did that through camp, and then, like I said, my buddy just said the year after I got out of college, he said, hey, this is a real thing, and he took me to the Center Chains disc golf course in Waterbury Center, Vermont, which is a public course there, free, nice par 3. And it was, love at first throw, really. I got right into it. I bought, tons of discs. I competed in the Vermont, state tour, the GMPS, which had been around at that point. That got going early. Some of the founders in Vermont started around 2000, 2001.
Wow.
And then, in 2009, it was like in its 8th year, and I won advanced. I won M1 that year, and then
Nice.
next year I started playing pro, and I won a couple of those. But then by the time I was playing, a lot and like competing around New England, I had gotten a job at Smugs, and then the courses there, got designed and evolved. Got involved with the pro tour, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the cliff notes of the origin there for me. So.
Nice. I love the roots of it with the frolf. I think it's a very organic way to get people involved in disc golf that a lot of people maybe don't go. A lot of people don't go. A lot of people go to the course and they start out with, maybe some more pressure of throwing the disc in the basket. You have this very finite target versus frolf where you're aiming at the cabin door or you're aiming at the big tree down the straightaway. It's just it's a much more organic kind of Frisbee oriented style to introduce people or get people involved with disc golf a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready to just throw, Frisbees when I started playing disc golf because I was like, I'm good at this. And, I played Ultimate a little bit, but never like super organized. I was a soccer player in high school. I played soccer in college, and
nice.
So I wasn't like playing Ultimate or like a club or anything like that. So it was more like this camp activity. But no, a lot of times, like when I was competing, I would say like, all right, just throw it to the general area. A lot of times, like if you get into a funk or you're not playing well, like I just would revert to that and just say, hey, just throw it straight ahead. You can throw it straight, stop thinking about like such a small target or a specific flight path or anything like that. And I mean, the design part of it was huge for me too. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip for beginner players while you're touching on it is if you're, instead of sometimes thinking about the disc golf shot and throwing the hyzer and the angles and everything, just think about throwing to an area like you would with a Frisbee, like you're passing it to your pal. You're just putting something into the basket. So good little simple kind of tips and tricks that I think people can pick up and use.
Yeah, for sure. And like the other part of playing around like the campus of like this overnight camp is, you get to design your own holes, and like I think the design element is something that I really enjoyed and loved, and even if it was just like a little like turn around a cabin or something, and then we went on like to the first course that I designed and built, like we put a 9-hole actual disc golf course in there, like the year after I found out about it. So
Nice.
yeah, I've designed I think like about 11 courses now, and that was the first one. So
Oh, nice. That's awesome. So
yeah.
you get into Smugs, and you obviously do a lot with those courses, getting involved more with disc golf, the Disc Golf
Mhm.
Pro Tour, and then the Disc Golf Pro Tour comes knocking. Tell us a little bit about how all that came to be, and
Yeah.
along the way, what have some of the challenges been for you?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been involved with the tour since its inception. I remember, like, growing the Green Mountain Championship, in wanting to push towards, the upper levels of events. I wanted like the event to be a national tour event, and then I heard one year that Steve Dodge was thinking about like offering a whole different approach to the tour. Um, and so I did get in touch with him. Like, we're not that far away from Maple Hill, and actually since before the GMC was going, I was going to Maple Hill, and I was just getting an understanding of like what the highest level events were like, what we needed to do at our event, what we could learn from, everything like that. And so we've been going down there since Smugs Disc Golf started, and then worked a lot with Dave Jackson, who helped design that course at Maple Hill, and he always put us to work when we went down there. So like me and like my superintendent, like my buddy John Lang, and I would go down there, and we would just like say, hey, we're here for a few days early. Like, what can we do to help? And we're going to be here, and we're going to promote the GMC. And so that's how really the GMC got bigger.
Yeah.
So that led to the relationship with Steve. And I remember like he had gone at it like the year before, but in 2015, I remember him, like contacting him in like our event, his event, and like Nate Heinold's event were like slated to be on the first year of the Pro Tour. So that was 2015, and due to a lot of like political reasons and like going, working with the PDGA at that time, it didn't like seem to take shape for 2016 the way Steve wanted it to.
Yeah.
So it seemed like he was starting to like back away, and like I remember I went down to the USDGC. The first year I went was 2012, and I'd gone in 2012, 2013, 2014. So this is my fourth year. 2015, and Nate Heinold was actually there, and he said, hey, I heard from Steve that you were going to be part of this effort to make a pro tour. I didn't even think it had necessarily like the name at that point in time, but like we think, Nate said, hey, I think that this is viable. Like, I think we really should do this. Steve has a great vision. He can do it, and just because the PDGA planning didn't work out, basically the feedback from the PDGA was like, do a trial year. And so Nate said, I think we should do that. So in the next conversation we both had with Steve, we were like, hey, we're in, why don't we try it? Why don't we do it? And it just went from there, and Steve got it off the ground. That was 2016. So, ever since then, I feel like, like Nate and I had both been there and as advisors for Steve as the Pro Tour went. And I remember there was a big blow up at the GMC the first year, during the Tour Championship, because Bradley Williams had been suspended for 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
And Bradley had just won MVP. At the time, it was Vibram. And so he wins Vibram. He gets suspended for 18 months. And, Steve felt like, maybe that was a little bit of, there's a little intention to that. There's like, some conflict there,
Yeah.
and long story short, he desanctioned the Tour Championship, which was at Smugs that year, that first year, like 3 days before it was going to happen. And
Oh, man. I
it
didn't know that story.
yeah, no, it was a crazy time. And he published, an opinion piece, an article on DGPT, and it kind of ruffled feathers. The director at the time was Brian Graham, and the chair of the board was Rebecca Duffy. And I remember talking to them a lot. It ended up being my event that this all happened at. And so we worked through it. You know, everything happened, but after that, I became the liaison to the PDGA for the Pro Tour, just because it was working well. Like we had good communication lines, and so we decided to like keep that communication going. And like we just evolved the relationship, made sure that the DGPT and the PDGA were working together. So ever since then, you know, I've been, you know, I'm also the state coordinator with the PDGA, but I've been working a lot with them. And as that relationship evolved and Joe came on board, you know, they had a great relationship with the DGPT. So I was able to back out of that and just be an advisor. But in 2018, I ran Pro Worlds. So I said, you know, I don't want to try to do two things at once. I want Pro Worlds to be as good as it can be. So we're not going to run the GMC. We're just going to run Pro Worlds at Smug. So I was a little divorced from like the proceedings and like the evolution of the Pro Tour that year, which did great. They did the great that year, but a lot of conflict between media and events and the tour and sponsors, which, you know, continues. It's a challenging relationship. It's like an important part of the sport. And like it's there's no easy answers to that, you know. Events want to highlight their presenting sponsor. Media teams want to get paid. So they look for sponsors. And sometimes when those sponsors conflict, there's conflict. Conflict, you know, there's issues. And so that ended up transpiring over the course of the 2018 season. And it came to a head, as we all know, that fall. Like, so heading into last year's season, big changes with media by the DGPT in 2019, and there was a little bit of conflict, you know, about bringing Jomez back, so on and so forth. And you know, I think Steve, rightfully so, you know, had to make a way for the DGPT to find a future and find like stable footing.
Yeah.
When that didn't really work out, there's a lot of discussions about how to move forward with the DGPT in the middle of the 2019 season. And being an advisor to the DGPT and being, you know, somebody who'd been on the circuit for a long time as a TD, I was just in a position where, like, you know, I was privy to some of the deliberations, some of the conversations, PDGA's opinion, you know, how the challenges Steve was dealing with, the future that he wanted for the DGPT, and you know, some ways to kind of recapitalize the tour that were up and like take it in a new direction. So you know, Steve had built up something that was really viable and really great, and I think he wanted to see a really well-funded future. And he started talking to me like at the really start of 2019, end of 2018, about, hey, are you interested in doing more? Like, you have done, you know, well to advise me, and you seem to have a good vision for the future. And so I started thinking about it. I didn't want to leave what I had started and grown at Smugs, because the disc golf courses there are, you know, my babies. Like, I love
world
them.
class.
Yeah, and I love the GMC. Thankfully, I'm able to still run the GMC actually, and work with Smugs because we have a good relationship. But the other thing is, I was the director of mountain biking in the ski and ride school. So I love mountain biking. I love skiing. It was hard to like leave that as well. But when it became apparent that you know, Todd Rainwater, the owner of the DGPT, was interested in becoming the majority owner and purchasing like the brand, you know, he reached out to me, and like through, you know, Steve talking to him, the PDJ talking to him, and like our relationship as it existed, he asked me to, like, if I was interested in leading like this next chapter. Thought about that for a while, and decided that, yeah, it was a good time for me to make a change and try to, you know, like, steer the ship for a while, and and hopefully it's going in the right direction. I know this pandemic isn't great, but I think we're off to a good start, and that's kind of like the long. I don't know if that's the. I could have said more. I tried to be I tried to be quick, but that's fairly detailed, and I mean that gives you a sense of like kind of the landscape over the last few years that has kind of brought me to the role.
No, that's, I mean, that's kind of that perspective, and your journey into the role is definitely something that, like, obviously people who are in tune with the sport, in tune with the tour, in tune with kind of the pro scene might more or less know that, but kind of hearing in your words what transpired, right? Because more or less you are the face of the pro tour at this point. A lot of people, when they think pro tour, they think you and Mahmoud at this point, because you guys are always on the shows. But it's interesting to hear how those things evolved, and then also like obviously moving forward, like you were brought into it, and then a month into it, something happened, right? And here we are in mid-April, figuring that out. So, kind of talk us through what the impact of COVID-19 has on DGPT. You indicated maybe there's a startup date in mind, so talk us through what's going on from the COVID front, if you will.
Yeah, it's good and bad timing that this happened, when it did, I guess. Bad, obviously, because we were having a great, successful start to the season. It was good that we at least got to start the season for the DGPT because we were debuting a lot of new things, and the Disc Golf Network had a great start, basically. So Disc Golf Network is the home of live broadcasts now, but we have a lot of associated content like interviews, studio shows, some human interest pieces, so on and so forth. So, but the core of it is the live. And so we really wanted to get that off the ground. We did it successfully with our partner Smashbox, and we got to 6,500 subscribers. So it's good that that is established and very viable. And so we look forward to restarting the live. That said, it sucks that we were on our way to probably 10,000 subscribers, in short order, which really, business wise, we're LLC, so we really need to bring in money in order to make the bottom line work. So we're doing everything we can. We've got our whole staff employed and working hard to create content and think of new campaigns, different ways to keep fans involved. But there's a couple of things that are happening as we transition back to the start of the season 2.0. Number one is we're going to focus on making sure that we're following, the health guidelines that are out there from local governments, the CDC, any of our medical experts out there. So we're not going to do anything in conflict with any of that, obviously. That said, we just heard today that the PGA Tour is planning a June 11th start, and they're going to have 4 events that they're going to run without fans. So, when this was all happening at Waco and we were making updates and saying, hey, no fans, or we're going to suspend the season, we were looking towards the PGA to basically be someone that runs a bigger, sport. The PGA is a huge organization where it's not really comparable, but at the same time, it's very similar in terms of it's outdoors. Golf courses are very similar to disc golf courses. Big golf events are, even more, challenging to run than big disc golf events. So after we saw the PGA Tour, kind of shut down, I know I was talking to PDGA reps, and that was kind of a trigger for us to kind of wind things down a little quicker.
Yeah,
it's one thing for the NBA to cancel or suspend their season. It's another thing for the PGA Tour in our mind. So the fact that they're getting going on June 11th means that I feel like we're on pace for a July restart without fans, and we're aiming for restarting at the Portland Open. If we have any road bumps in the way, that could defer that timeline a few more weeks. But if everything kind of continues to level out, and things hit the projections that we're seeing for good scenarios with COVID, we believe that the tour can restart at Portland with the Portland Open, and that's July 4th weekend. I've been in touch with all of our Portland contacts, including the parks department that the course is on, and right now we're okay for July, and basically the final call is going to happen mid-May. And so we are aligned with our sponsors, the players, and hopefully mid-May we're Portland Open is officially on. but right now we're planning on it. I know that the PDGA is about to, give an update for everybody, and I think that it may not be like, hey, we're ready to go. It's going to push guidelines back a little bit, and I'll let them speak for themselves on that. But right now, we're looking at Portland as the DGPT start, and that means hopefully DGLO, the Silver Series events in between those two, as well as hopefully just getting back on track. I would guess that we're going to be like no fans, probably into August, but hopefully August and into September we're able to like restart fans. Again, this is all guesswork based on the best case scenario, really. So, but that's what we're hoping for. Yeah.
Quick follow up to that, Jeff. Do you know anything about Worlds? I feel like that's the one that is right on the fringe of that timeline. That's obviously the biggest tournament of the year. I'm sure it'll be a bummer if fans aren't able to participate in person, but to potentially have live coverage and post-production coverage of the World Championship is still how a lot of people consume the tournament more than even in person. So do you know anything specifically about Worlds at all?
Yeah, is this live? Are we live right now?
It's not live. We're not live.
When are you guys posting? When are you posting this?
Probably. Well, depending on what you're about to say, we'll post it after that.
Well, I do know that there's most likely going to be a postponement from the actual date that it is. I think the PDGA is ready to announce an update to sanctioning in majors and NTs on Friday. So I'll let that speak for itself. But yeah, I would say that my guess would probably be that we're going to see just a general postponement without a new date set.
So, okay. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So kind of turning it back to the tour of it, you mentioned DGN, and now with everything that's going on with COVID, DGN is ever so more important, right? Because you guys no longer have those live events that you were talking about. What can you tell us about how you're bringing even more value to the DGN to kind of say, hey, we have that 6,500 mark. Here's why we need to bump up to that 10K mark, even with no live events. Are there plans for more content, more action, those kind of things?
Yeah, there are. We've been releasing content pretty much daily with interviews and updates from pros, and we're starting to break down a little bit of stats. Like we did a little feature with Cam Messerschmidt that got released today about like how he got to be the best putter on tour in terms of like UDIS stats. That said, I'm like happy to share that we're going to be running DGPT. I guess the official name is going to be a putting tournament, like
nice.
Match Play Putting Invitational, if you will. So it's going to be some of the top pros, and we're just finalizing the format and getting some sponsors on board. But it's going to be a reg fee. It's going to be added cash. It's going to be match play, and we're going to broadcast the Sweet 16 of both men and women on DGN, and I think it's going to be great content and. Going to be like basically just a tournament, but putting only. So
that's cool.
We're excited to announce that. I'm giving you guys a scoop on that. We haven't announced that yet, but we probably will announce the final details next week.
Sweet, cool.
So yeah, we've got a lot of pros excited about it, and it's going to be a lot like the NBA 3-point contest at the All-Star break. So it's going to be fun to watch. There's going to be like a timing element to it, and yeah, I think it's going to be like head-to-head matchups, and then you move on. So
nice.
We got that in the works, and the other thing that we're doing is we anticipate that there's going to be some time in between like when disc golf's okay to play and the time where like big events happen. So we are putting together a match play championship that we hope to announce and give details on pretty soon too. But like that one is really dependent on like when the actual it's like recommendation by the PDGA that you can play is lifted, and they say, hey, listen, it's okay, go to play, make sure that you're with groups under 4 people, so on and so forth, and we don't know when that is. So like that type of match play event is going to be, delayed until we actually have a solid date. But I think that is our plan, basically, to bring some really fun and compelling actual disc golf, to screens at home as soon as possible, really. So
yeah, that's really cool. And I think the DGN is it's kind of the catalyst for a professional step forward in the sport, right? What you guys are doing and kind of what your team has done is aggregated a lot of the question marks. Is like, where do you get the deepest and the most consistent view on what the professional world is saying in the sport? And I think you guys have done you guys have done an amazing job presenting that in the most professional ways. It's wild to see all the positive comments, especially intermittent with some of the folks who are saying, "Oh, it's $5. I can't pay you $5 a month to watch like 25-30 hours of great footage." So
yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and that's a testament to the team. Mahmoud has Sam and Evan, and Dustin, our graphics guy, and Seth. Everybody contributes, and we're always talking every week about what's the content schedule, what are we doing next, and we're planning 3 weeks out. So all the content's there, and we're staying connected to the pros, and that's what we're passionate about, is that tour, the pro tour, how do we make more touring pros? How do we create more opportunity for people to make this their life? And how do we highlight that journey? And then I think it's a great kind of platform for it, and I'm glad that it's resonating with a lot of folks.
Totally. So now turning back to the actual logistics of the tour, looking into the future, 2 to 5 years from now, where do you see this going? We're talking about that professionalism, bringing more people onto the tour. What are you thinking for DGPT and DGN? Are you getting your own network cable deal? So 2 to 5 years, what's your outlook?
Yeah, I mean, so national network deals are certainly part of it. I think that basically the media rights that the Pro Tour has, what we do with them is going to be, a big topic of the next 5 years. We want to support our media partners that are in the sport. We don't think it's easy to film disc golf well and turn it around. Really proud of everything that, Jomez, Central Coast, Gatekeeper, GK, Parsave does. They create great content, and we want to make sure that they have a path forward to, they've dedicated, a lot of those guys have dedicated their lives to reporting and creating content for disc golf. And I think that that's our number one concern, is making sure that the progression of media, includes those people that are passionate and know the sport and know how to film it well and create products that disc golfers love. I think that certain events, and there's certain places for national broadcasts. I know that one thing that we've been looking at is the Tour Championship, a way to delve into national broadcast media, whether it's ESPN2 or FS2. We know that the Ultimate League, AUDL, has had success with, now they're on Fox, and they had some work with ESPN, and we've talked to them about that path. And it seems like a good path in order to bring in, some sponsors that want to be a part of this demographic and sell to this demographic, because it kind of adds some kind of legitimacy. We don't know if it is as good as, a passionate fan base that loves disc golf, though. That's what we have now. And I think that, making it harder, going national is making it harder to watch for the people that really love it, and maybe more expensive. A lot of people don't have cable packages now.
True.
So I think it's going to be one step at a time. If I was going to project what would happen, it would be let's take one crowning event, like the Tour Championship, and get that on ESPN2, where it's free for all ESPN2 viewers. It's expanding the reach that we have as a sport. It's bringing in new advertisers that see that, hey, the sport, just like cornhole, which is on ESPN as well,
Yeah.
has some appeal to the masses and introduces a lot more people. But at the same time, we don't need to, mortgage everything that is going so well right now. I think, that there's so many talented, media crews, and with Jomez really leading the way there. And I say that just because that, them and Central Coast, like they get such a high percentage of viewership, and they have their own fanhood themselves. So, I think that, you don't try to fix what's not broken in some ways,
Yeah.
but you look for avenues. It's interesting because like when I first thought about this question, I said, yeah, we were like, no, like, let's just get on ESPN, yada, yada, yada. We can do it. And we can, like, honestly, we can. But like with the evolving landscape, like, we're on Discord right now. Twitch is more and more popular. There's so many platforms with so many different eyes. I think we're just going to try to be sure that we're not like giving everything away to a national network when, we have a lot of followers as is, and a lot of passionate fans that may not necessarily agree with that. And I think, we'll definitely diversify our approach and include national broadcasts in the next year or two. But
Nice.
but that said, I think we'll just see how that goes. I mean, if it's a hit and we're getting like tons of money from a national, media team or media broadcast network, then we're not going to say no. But I don't think that there's any thought that we're going to be, running shows like PGA majors like the U.S. Open or the Masters tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
I found that baby steps work, and we're definitely going to take baby steps toward national broadcast. But I think, like we want to serve like our new subscriber base on the Disc Golf Network and with live and more content. And, I want Joe, man, I want these media teams at every event with us for the foreseeable future. So that's important to us too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
No, that's so cool to hear. And it's interesting kind of the idea of like, don't sell the boat, right? Don't sell the boat, just sell, like, rent it out for a bit. Like, if we can get a tour championship on ESPN2, awesome. But the folks over at DGN, people who've been following us since this year when we first got it, are still going to get it, right? And those are the people we're selling to. But there might be, paychecks are paychecks sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Wes, you got some rapid fires for us to end it out.
Yeah. Got some rapid fires. We got some fun ones in here. Try and keep them quick, one word-ish, one line answers.
That's hard for me. That's hard for me. You guys can probably tell. I can talk. So.
Well, if you need to elaborate or think about it for a second, feel free to. So we'll dive right in. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. We start out easy and then we get some fun ones. Hot chocolate or frozen yogurt?
Frozen yogurt.
I would have bet the farm that you would have said hot chocolate, being in a ski town. Oh man.
I like coffee. I love like frozen yogurt in Vermont is called creamies because it's like made with actual dairy, and maple creamies are like a staple of Vermont like lifestyle. So a lot of the pros come to the GMC and they have their favorite like maple creamy spots. So it's really good. It's
nice. Hey, learn something new. Your favorite non-disc golf athlete?
Saquon Barkley.
I dig it. I think you touched on this a little bit, but your favorite thing to do off the disc golf course?
Mountain bike.
Outside of Smugs, what's your favorite course to play, and what's your favorite course to spectate?
Favorite course to play is Yarva. I went over there for the 2016 European Championship. I think
Nice.
2017. I can't remember what year, but oh man, best course in the world for me. Favorite course to spectate, Blue Lake. That's why I run the Portland Open. I went to the 2014 Worlds. Unbelievable experience. Close second, Maple Hill.
Maple Hill. I thought that might be the case.
Yeah.
So if you could take one part from any FPO player's game to create the ultimate player, whose putt, upshot, and drive are you taking?
You said FPO?
FPO, yep.
Okay. Putt, upshot, and drive. For the drive, let's go with Katrina.
Good choice.
I guess upshot, or just like throwing in
Yeah.
general. Like, I don't know. Probably go with Paige and then putt Madison.
Nice. That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
real tough.
I'm probably missing people, but quick fire, rapid fire.
Yeah.
Rapid fire. That's right. The most important shot in your mind: the tee shot, the upshot, or the drive, or the tee shot, upshot, or the putt. Excuse me.
I'm gonna go with putt.
Putt.
Every
Oh man,
time.
it's a good debate on that one. I love the conversation around it. One country outside of Finland that you could see hosting a disc golf pro tour event one day.
Sweden.
Sweden, right next door.
Absolutely. Maybe sooner than later.
Sooner than later. Ooh, I like it. One dark horse player you think could make a run at the World Championship this year? We saw Emerson kind of come out of nowhere last year. Those who pay attention to disc golf knew who Emerson was, but certainly not a favorite, and he gave it a real run.
Emerson gave it a run last year, and of course at Smugs Barsby won, which would have been no one's pick.
Yeah.
This year, let's just say Utah is going to happen as normal, huh? Kale Leviska.
Kale, I like it. A seasoned vet. You can pass on this one if you don't want to pick a favorite, but who is your pick to most likely win the World Championship this year?
Hard not to say Paul. Utah. He's never gone to Utah, though. Man, if Rick was healthy, I would have said Rick. Most likely.
This is a tough one.
Probably shouldn't say Brody Smith.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be real wild.
I almost want to just give you like an other than Paul pick.
Up to you.
I probably would say Calvin. I think Calvin's, other than Paul, it's Calvin, like, because of, I know he didn't crush it in Waco, but it was also shortened. I probably would go Calvin. Mean, he won 2 last year. Now he's won a DGPT. I think he's like the next step on that like Ricky Paul level.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation because you're out west, you're in the elevation. I think maybe you give Eagle a slight edge, being the Colorado native, or maybe look at some of the Pacific Northwest guys, the Washington guys. Sexton's out there.
I think Sexton. I would go Sexton before Eagle. I think Eagle's incredible. I think he has world championships in his future. I think it's like I'd say 3-4 years, and he may be unstoppable. But I think he's got a couple years. And Calvin's demeanor is more ready. I think they're similar ages, but Eagle's growing and getting better every year, and it's incredible. But Calvin's like kind of like an assassin right now. I don't know. Yeah. But Sexton has a couple more years left in his prime, you know. Yeah. And it's funny to think about that because like I think he's the same age as Nate Dawson. Nate basically like retired, and he could have won more too, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, it's wild to hear, and it's interesting to see. I think the elevation is definitely going to play into it. There's a few. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Joe Revere make the trip if we do go forward with Utah. Joe Revere pop over and surprise some people. I think Tristan Tanner also is going to.
He's from up there.
Like he's doing and it might just be because he's hot on social media, but like he's doing a lot of work right now, and I think he's definitely a name to look out for. So I think that's all for us for our questions for you. But we want to thank you again. And we want to give you a chance to say pretty much whatever you want. Thank people, shout people out, anything. It's the stage is yours.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would just thank my team. Like we've got an awesome team that makes up the DGPT, from Todd and Louisa, the owners, to Like we got Mo, Aaron, who are our manager, media manager, retail marketing manager, Seth, who's our operations director. We got Dustin, our graphic design guy. We've got Sam Gaddis, who's out in Emporia still right now working. We got Evan Spur, who's our operations guy. We got Sean Jack, who does partnerships and like sponsorships for us, and Baker Helton, who does some marketing for us. Like it's a great team. We're looking to expand it, and they're all like doing everything they can to you know, bring great content to everybody, keep people excited about disc golf, and you know, we're really thankful for all of our subscribers, you know, to the Disc Golf Network. Like we've got more and more content. It's only going to get better, only going to get more. And you know, I'm excited for, you know, us to restart. We can't wait. So thanks to the fans for tuning in, and to you guys for having me.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks again for joining us, Jeff. We definitely want to encourage people to go subscribe to the Disc Golf Network if you haven't. I feel like now is the absolute best time to subscribe to the Disc Golf Network. If you're sitting at home looking for content, you've watched all of the Jomez videos twice already, go subscribe to the Disc Golf Network. You will get your money's worth in interviews, content. There's so much on there to keep you busy. Be sure to check it out. Thanks again, Jeff. And at the end of the day, Alex, one thing left to do.
Make that putt.
Make that putt.